Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. This is Preach Moss, the host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. Hope you're having an exquisite Sunday. You know what today is. It's not even potluck Sunday today. Today is a Father's Day show. This is a day where we celebrate the merit, the spirit, the idea, the contributions, and the love of fathers. So I hope today you can settle in with us a little bit. We're going to do things a little bit differently. Much the same as when we had our Mother's Day show. We really tried to take the time to appreciate the life contributions of our parents. And the same way with our mothers and our fathers, our grandmothers, our grandparents, I think it's really important to celebrate the contribution overall. We had a really rough period with COVID and the pandemic. And this is a time where a lot of us, while we'll celebrate, there's some people who are openly mourn because they don't have their fathers with them anymore. We want to be considerate of those feelings and those emotions. So for this particular show, we're going to talk about that, and we're going to enjoy the idea of fatherhood, but we also want to make sure that we consider it to people who, outside of, I call them being fathers, a lot of times, if we're lucky, they get to be our best friends. They get to be our confidants. They get to be our advisors and our guidance people. A lot of times, brothers and sisters, we don't understand the whole ephemeral effect of having fathers. And I will break it down because, yes, there's a father and then there's dad. There's a father and then there's a pops. Father is a term that they put on the birth certificate. Well, that's well and good. Everybody has a father. If you're here, you got a father, you got a mother. We want to go talk about the expanded nuance, if you will. The aspect of people who engage in trying to raise their children the best they can. Now, let's be really clear. Sometimes marriages don't work out. Sometimes relationships don't work out. And even with the best of intentions, as we say, man plans, God's already planned. Things don't happen correctly. But I still want to celebrate those that stick by their families, that stick by the job to make sure that not just their parents, but their children are raised correctly and they have a loving foundation moving forward. A lot of us are blessed to have our parents in our lives, our mothers, our fathers, some not. But for this show, I'm not trying to make any disparities. I'm trying to celebrate those who actively choose to be in the lives of their children. I'm a blessed one. I can tell you, I've had my dad in my life my whole life, and I've grown to a level whereby we get to be friends. So we don't talk about kids things anymore. We talk about man things. And I don't want to overlook this. One of the greatest relationships that a father is going to have, as well as a son, is a very special bond that a father has with a daughter. So I want to make sure that we get out of that space of father-son. Really want to talk about father-daughter too, because that's an extremely powerful connection as well. So for this show, if you want to come on and you want to talk about your dad or you want to put something in the comment section, I will welcome you to do so. I will be talking about my dad in some regards. I'll be talking about the idea of fatherhood in some regards. I'll even look at the divine protection of having parents, particularly the fathers. I always joke, Mother's Day is the big holiday. Mother's Day, get the big fruit baskets, and Father's Day, you get ties, or you get a card from Walgreens that you really didn't want. Now, that being said, all fathers know is all we just want to know from our children, from our wives, is that we're doing a good job. That somehow, somewhere, we're making a difference in the lives of our children. And let me also say this, because I'd be remiss if I didn't. There are people who step into the lives of young children who are not biological fathers. They are the uncles and the grandparents who step in, they see the need, and they step up. And they don't want to hear about narratives about how relationships didn't work out. A single-minded focus is that they want to be able to raise their children or raise their grandchildren like they raise their children. And I think it's very important to say that. In my personal situation, if you will, brothers, this is the first Father's Day where some of my compatriots aren't around with me. My big brother, Reginald Kitchen, my cousin, Donald Foster, who in their own spaces, I witnessed were great fathers. But this conversation, again, it's about celebrating. It's about understanding the day to day. And you'll find in this conversation that as much as you talk about fathers, you're going to have to talk about mothers. You're going to have to talk about the teamwork of humanity that makes this whole thing work. All right. So listen, I'm not going to ramble on anymore. Welcome to the Shout Out Show. This is the Father's Day edition. We'll be right back. Let's start the show. Well, everybody, we're back. Man, blessed to have another Father's Day. You know, I got blessed with a card that was a handmade card that's in a tradition of Father's Day stuff that's just been amazing. When you get something that's handmade, like artistically, it's amazing. This is what I got last year. It's a little faded, but I got the Shout Out Show. I can't do it because of the green screen, but total surprise, man. Total surprise. So what I want to do is I want to welcome everybody to the show. If you're coming to the show for the first time, thank you for coming. This is the Shout Out Show Father's Day edition. Welcome. You're more than welcome to stay. What you can do is be a part of the conversation. You can get in the comments section. You can click the like box, the notification box, the whatever subscribe box, whatever you feel like clicking is fine. The most important thing I tell people when you come in with a mindset that you want to have a good time and you want to connect with people. Okay? Come in with a mindset. Don't be a wallflower. This is your opportunity. While I'm the host, I always say, yes, I'm the host of the Shout Out Show, but I don't own the platform. The platform is designed and developed by the people who come on the show. They make the show. This is community format right now, and I just want you to make sure that you're enjoying it as best you can. All right. So let's go ahead and get into our stars in the building. First up, we have Sister Reed. Thank you, Sister Reed. Sister Reed says, Happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day. And I have to say, Mother's Day is a huge holiday. Father's Day is interesting because it is an appreciation and an affirmation of motherhood. Fathers can't do it by themselves. The affirmation of motherhood. And I'm like, you have to really, really look at that as well. So, Reed, thank you so much. And I got your text. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Next up, got Brother Chase. How you doing, Brother Chase? Coming all the way. I hope all the happy Father's Day to you, my brother. Thank you for tuning in to the show. You know, this is a shout out show. This is a family show. So I'm happy. And big shout out to my main Juwan. I know you're not a dad yet, brother, but you've been holding it down in that role for a lot of years, and God bless you. Take care of your mom. All right. My little brother. I sent out a text to my little brother today, congratulating him on being a father. So my nephews are Rachel, Justin, and Jordan. And I've had the privilege of watching him raise three young men. And when I say three young men, I mean three healthy, intellectual young men who are making great choices in their lives, but also trying to be a part of society, trying to even be entrepreneurs, which is always near to my heart. Now, I say, I watched you be a father, JT, but I cheated off your design. I admit I cheated. I looked and I wrote down notes to see what you were doing, and I practiced on Justin a little bit when you weren't looking. Because in the end, brothers and sisters, fatherhood is like a network. It's like a union. When you think of fatherhood, a lot of times, there's a choice. You're already a father. That's a biological. The spiritual nature and the metaphysical nature of being a father is something that's totally different, which speaks to the fact that how am I going to engage this child to the best of my ability so that they can reach the best of their ability? The whole idea of having a child raising a child with the whole idea of at the beginning, the middle, and end, I want you to engage in your best self. Your best self for you, your best self for your Lord, your best self for your environment, your best self for your community. That's a lot to think about. And sometimes we do get it twisted. You know, I always laugh. You know, one of my favorite shows is Sanford and Son. I'm going to tell you why. I like Sanford and Son because, yes, it's Fred and Lamont. It's Fred and Lamont, but it was one of the few shows early on that showed a dynamic between two black men, a father and a son. And even from that, I borrowed. I don't call my dad dad. I don't call him father. I call him pops. I call him pops in celebration of Sanford and Son back in the day. Because my dad is like my buddy, and I refer to him as pops. I know it may not be politically correct, but he's never corrected me. So I have to say, you know what? I like that. So we got my man Altaf Rashid. Walaikum assalam rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, a Canadian ambassador. What's going on, Altaf, man? Are you celebrating Father's Day up there, brother? I hope so, man. I hope you are getting out there and making somebody's day a beautiful day. Now, everybody knows that Altaf is our ambassador to the show. We appreciate you, man. Let me ask you, do they celebrate Father's Day in Canada at the same time that we do here? That's a good question. Because I know that, you know, they celebrate at different times. Is it Father's Day in Canada, Altaf? Let us know. Alaikum assalam. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah. Imam Tariq, my main man. Brother, good to see you on the show. First of all, for all you do, your hard work and your effort, and I keep an eye on you, the stuff you do at Impact. Brother, I appreciate you, man. You know, I only got to hang out with you one time in California, man, and I felt like I made a friend for a long time. And it was a fellowship. I just want to speak on it. I see your videos and things like that. I see the good that you're trying to do, and that little bit of time we had after class to speak, I want to thank you for taking that time because it made an impression. And then, of course, I say if anything I can do to help you, you know you got it. But happy Father's Day to you, big brother. To you, big brother. Happy Father's Day to you. All right, next up, we got my aunt, Maxine BK. How you doing? The founder, the entrepreneur, the owner, the CEO of BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. Thank you so much, Aunt Maxine. A shout out to all the fathers, which is really, really important. And of course, Mary Ma saying Happy Father's Day. And it rolls off the tongue. You know, it rolls off the tongue. You know, there's something to be said about relationships with dads. And it's never steady. Okay, I'm not saying it's problematic or there's trouble. It's never steady. Because a father at some point in time, we get a little, the father will get set in his ways. Because we want the best for our family members, our children, our wives. We want the best, and we get sometimes a little stuck in that space and get a little stubborn. But I find that little bit of stubbornness, I used to think it was being obstinate. No, it's love. You hold on to love. You know, I have the experience of watching. Oh, Altaf said it's Father's Day up there up north. Well, up north as well. Alhamdulillah. But you know, I had the opportunity of watching a good friend, a friend of mine. He's old school dad, man, old school dad. And he was talking to me about raising girls. And he said, the biggest disconnect you will have when you're raising a young girl and she gets to a certain age is you'll find that she loves you so much that she's become you in some regard. And acknowledging that she's become you is incriminating. It's self-incriminating. But there's love involved. There's engagement involved, brothers and sisters. You know, we talk about fathers. In African-American community, let's be honest, fathers get a bad rap. Far too often. They get a bad rap. People don't understand the advent of fatherhood in the African-American community. Coming out of slavery, you didn't choose your family. You were made to mate. You are property, brothers and sisters. The whole idea of Black families around marriage, honestly, marriages between African Americans doesn't happen till the late 1880s, meaning you are in these forced relationships. And you would think in this particular time, in this particular space, you would think everything's out the window, everything's off the table. But it wasn't. In these particular times, you have the rudiments, if you will, of family structure. In the most severe of times, the most severe of oppression. The father who says, that's my son, when the owner says, that's my property. The mother that goes, that's my daughter, when the man goes, that's my mammy. And when you begin to understand this, brothers and sisters, not to harp on it, it's a magical thing. You know, I was at a kuppah on Friday, and the man used the term Allahu Akbar, which means Allah is the greatest, or Allah is the greater. And he said, we don't understand the idea of great. He said, because there's two ideas of great, brothers and sisters. There's the idea of greatness at a human level, and then there's the idea of greatness at a divine level. At a divine level, a level that creates light and water and time and wind. We have absolutely no idea what that is. But we want to equate ourselves as being great at that level. I feel it's the same way with parents. I feel like fathers are at a level. Anybody can be a father, but it's different to be a dad. It's different to be a pops. And here's why I think it's very difficult. Because you got to be vulnerable. You got to be vulnerable. I'm actually going to put up a picture of my pops here. Sultana, can you put that up? Okay, well, there we go. This is Clifford Moss Jr., which would, of course, let you know that there was a Clifford Moss Sr. I had the pleasure of being able to spend time with my grandfather up to I was about 16. And what I learned was watching how he raised his children, and then he watched his children raise their children. Let me digress here. We're talking about continuity. We're talking about a man looking at his children, not just his son or the daughter, but he's looking at his legacy and openly saying, did I do a good job? Do I need to still be in the fray? And in some regards, that legacy, if you will, is extremely important because we live it. We are the legacy of our parents. Every little boy, despite everything that can happen in the world, good, bad, but every little boy, in some regards, wants to be his dad. He will be his dad because a little boy is going to grow into a man. A little boy doesn't grow into a grown woman. Well, at least these days, but that's another story. But a man, a young boy, watches a man. Now, I was talking to my dad a little bit earlier today. And here's something that he said, and I thought it was really, really powerful. He grew up at a time where there were community dads. Let me say it again. He grew up at a time where there were community dads, meaning you would see your father in the community doing good, bad, in between. He talked about the idea that your mother would send you to your dad, say, give me a couple dollars, bring some bread home. And I really wrestled with this, but then I got a really genuine appreciation of what he was talking about. I grew up in a community father situation. Let me explain. We watched our fathers at 20 and 30 years old grow into adulthood as well as being fathers. Dig that. Sultana has 15 siblings, right? I'm joking. She has a big family. But let me characterize the big family. Okay? All jokes aside. In characterizing the big family, and I haven't got the chance to talk with her father, 9.5 times out of 10, So Tana's father was a community dad, meaning there were a group of men who were going through the whole idea of raising families. And there were layers to it. And the layers to this whole idea of growing family, not just growing family, but protecting family and producing successful children becomes the thing, if you will, a goal. We talk about this whole thing about, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes villages within the village. And I think, we don't want to overlook it, and I don't want to skirt the issue, but I'm like, we are, particularly in our situation, we are community parents. We are community parents in every step of the way. I was still an only child. So I didn't have brothers and sisters. So dig this though. So the man I put on the screen at 12, 13 years old when I had a paper route. I didn't have a paper route. We had a paper route. When I say we had a paper route, while I had a paper route, my father was not going to let me go out of the house at 4:30, 4:15 in the morning to go deliver papers on my own. And he spoke to the fact that he knew he had to fill that void. He knew he had to fill that void. There were times when, my mother had to fill the void, whereby maybe it was sports, maybe it was education, maybe I was having a hard time. I was a short kid with glasses. Thank God for comedy. Who knows where I'd be without that? But at every level of engagement, there was this esprit de corps that we know what we're supposed to be doing. My brother Rick, shout out to Rick Slafford, shout out to JT, shout out to Owen Smith, shout out to Dave Chappelle, shout out to Azhar Usman, shout out to Jawad, shout out to Jawad Khawaja, the Khawaja brothers. There's a whole lot of shout outs. All the imams, shout out to them. But I'm also going to throw this in. Shout out to the women who helped them be fathers. Shout out to the women who helped them be fathers. Because like I said, I don't want to skirt over the thing, because that's a big part too. And we have something from Sister Satana. Can you put that hadith up, Sister Satana? And the right of your father is that you should know that he is your root and you are his branch. And without him, you would not be. Whenever you see anything in yourself which pleases you, you should know that your father is the root of its blessing upon you. So praise God and thank him in recognition of that. And there is no power but in God. That's a powerful summation. An extremely powerful summation. And I don't think enough, if you will, that we talk about our parents in those terms. That somehow, someplace, we're not digging in a little bit deeper to who our parents really are. There's a thought, if you will. It's an old Sufi thought that the readiness of a parent is the acknowledgement that you will never be ready enough. That the scope of your children and your children's children and your children's children's children will lie essentially in the fact that when you address a situation, you brought your best character to that situation. We're not talking about changing diapers. We're not talking about holding hands. There are stories of men who are in their children's lives for a year, 6 months. And you say, how does a child know that? They don't, but they understand the intention of their life. The purpose, the purposefulness of being children. Now I want to flip this last one, because we're already 25 seconds almost. This is not my plea. This is my ask, if you will. This is my ask. My ask is this. that if you have fathers, the same as if you have mothers who are still here, somehow, some way, find a way to make whatever time they have left here on this earth pleasant. Re-engage relationships with them. For some reason in 2021, relationships are broken, they're jagged. People don't talk enough. And again, invest the same way that your parents invested in you. Call them. Make sure they're okay. Don't assume. Call them. Drop by. And when you're finished with your parents, there's a neighbor whose child may not come around anymore. Go check on them too. Because I'm looking at this whole thing and I'm saying there is something here that has a particular texture it's a prophetic texture. It's a prophetic texture. All the way from Adam, all the way to Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. It has a prophetic texture. And I don't want us to lose the nuance of how important that is. We celebrate Father's Day, but we need to celebrate character of our fathers. We need to celebrate the legacy of our fathers. One of the funniest stories I ever heard when I was a kid was when I was born, essentially, my mother didn't think I was on the way. My mother thought I was gas. Turned out she was going into labor. I see a lot of y'all like that gas story. Good. But the funny part was I was born on December 21st. I won't give you the year. But I was born on December 21st. And a father's pride wanted me to be home on Christmas. And the story of how they brought me home in Christmas, they put me in a little stocking. I wasn't a big kid, but they put me in a little stocking. And I was born what's called, during the time, it's called the Great Knickerbocker Snowstorm. The snow got so heavy that the Knickerbocker Theater, the ceiling collapsed from snow. And it brought me home basically in a blizzard. And some of the people on the show, my mom and my Aunt Maxine, they know about this. But there's something to be said that there's a father's pride. Now, we're talking about fathers, but there's a father's pride. And sometimes just that little bit of pride is the thing that makes boys want to grow up into upright men. So listen, whatever you're doing for your dad, or whatever you haven't done for you as a dad, enjoy it. Imbibe on it, brothers and sisters. Because you know what? You've made a choice to be that person. Did you hear what I said? You made that choice to be that person. Because being a father means that you're a different person. Yes, you're your husband. You see the categories, your husband, but you're a different person. And you're going to grow and be different people with your children. And they're going to grow and be different people with you. I can't tell you the times my dad walked in the house and I don't know who's in that room, but he's about to get killed. So I don't want to get too far off the track. But again, I would encourage us to celebrate not just fathers, but celebrate the character of fathers, the spiritual dynamics of fatherhood, and connect that spiritual dynamic, but also the spiritual dynamic of motherhood. I made a mistake last time. We did a Mother's Day show. It was all about mothers, but my error, if you will, is that I didn't connect the two in celebrating families. That's my shortcoming. Please forgive me. But everybody knows there's no fathers without mothers. There's no mothers without fathers. And none of us can be mothers or fathers without children. It's a very simple mathematic, but easily overlooked. And let's take the stress and strife of the world out of the way, because, when you look at your children look at me, or your children look at you, it doesn't matter. That relationship is always going to be intact. And as long as you can enjoy it, enjoy it. That's our show today, everybody. Thank you so much. Happy Father's Day. Let me get our sponsors up. We want to give a shout out to BeFinanciallyIndependent.com. Again, that's BeFinanciallyIndependent.com, sponsoring our shout out show, Father's Day special. You can call 1-888-496-6845. Again, that's 1-888-496-6845. All right, we'll give a shout out also to Bayan Islamic Graduate School. If you're interested in the quality graduate level education, Islamic education, Bayan Islamic Graduate School is where you want to be. As well, I would encourage you to go to their website and check out some of the lectures that they have for free. Go to bayanonline.org. Again, that's bayanonline.org. Brothers and sisters, I appreciate you. We're going to head out, and I'm going to make sure I give a shout out Clifford Moss Sr., Clifford Moss Jr., Reginald Kitchen, Donald Foster, all you brothers and sisters out there. We appreciate you. God bless, and hug your fathers. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Preacher Moss. And here's a little shout out to my dad, who turned me on to jazz at a very young age. One of his favorite artists is Jimmy Smith, who is hands down one of the most incredible organ players in the world. So we don't care about YouTube. We don't care about Facebook. We're going out with Jimmy Smith. Let it roll, Satana.